What could possibly make a small influencer turn down a brand deal worth $12,000? A micro-influencer who at the time had fewer than 10,000 followers and had yet to accept an offer that big. Well, in today's video, I'm going to talk you through a brand deal opportunity I had that never made it out of the negotiation stage. In the first of what I hope becomes a series on me breaking down offers I've received and said no to along my content creator journey. So $12,000 is undeniably a lot of money, especially for a smaller creator looking to establish themselves and make more consistent income in this space. But what if I told you instead of cash, this brand was offering $12,000 in gift cards over the course of a year? Now, some of you might already be packing up ready to leave this video thinking, of course you said no then. Other professionals don't get paid in gift cards. I don't pay my hairdresser, my doctor, my lawyer, XYZ in gift cards. Why should the expectation be any different for content creators or influencers? We have bills to pay too. But on the other hand, I know some of you watching might be thinking like, okay, yes, cash is king, but $12,000 in gift cards, that goes a long way. For most of us, $1,000 a month is a shopping spree of our dreams. And I will say out of these two responses, I am usually a take the cash, like I can't eat a gift card type of person. But this offer had me seriously considering, and I urge you to stop and ask what you would do too, because this was $12,000 in gift cards to a grocery store. In this economy, that sounds like a steal. Or maybe you just have it a lot better than I do. But let's be honest, it is an absolute privilege to even consider turning something like that down. A privilege that a lot of smaller creators don't have. Like, I'm all for being in your business bag, but not having to pay for groceries for an entire year frees up a lot of your income. And grocery stores, at least most of the ones here, have so much more than food. Cleaning supplies, beauty products, pharmacy items. So why did I say no? Was I too on my high horse as a creator to accept the gig? Was what they were asking in return just so astronomical? We're gonna break down what happened because I think this whole situation is the perfect business lesson for content creators on what questions to ask in a brand negotiation and at what point is the right point for you to walk away. Let's get into it. So a few years ago, I got an email about a potential brand partnership with a grocery store chain. It would be a year-long ambassador program offering an $1,000 gift card a month in exchange for one in-feed post and an accompanying 3-slide story set. To set the stage too, I was still at my day job at this time, though I had just given my 6-month-ish notice, and I was really in the mindset of planning for the year ahead. So I was actually seriously considering this offer because the lift wasn't that huge. It was saying an in-feed post in general. It didn't necessarily have to be a reel or a video. It could just be a photo or a carousel. At this time too, my husband had quit his job to go back to school, so I was the sole income earner. And so having groceries covered for 12 months would mean that I would only have to worry about making enough to cover rent and our bills. We would be able to live pretty good. And as my husband and I started to crunch the numbers, we started to get really excited and we started fantasizing about how we would treat our families to some dinners and some groceries of their own. Because $1,000 in groceries for a household of 2 plus 2 cats was kind of overkill. So I let the brand know that while I didn't normally do in-kind partnerships, I did find the offer to be quite generous. So I was open to discussing and had some follow-up questions, especially around usage rights and exclusivity. They came back saying that for usage, they wanted the rights to boost my content for the entire year, which already had me feeling kind of Like, that is something that I usually charge brands for on top of the content creation itself. So the fact that they wanted to boost my content for an entire year without any further compensation had me feeling a little type of way. But that actually wasn't the big roadblock for me. It was their expectations around exclusivity. They didn't want me to work with any other grocery retailers for an entire year, which on paper, of course, makes sense. A brand doesn't want you to be doing sponsored content for them one day and the other for their direct competitor. But again, exclusivity as a content creator is something that I charge brands for. And for me, I'm a lot more strict with charging for exclusivity than I am with boosting, because exclusivity terms have a direct impact on my potential earnings for the year. So back to our back and forth. At face value, the exclusivity of no other grocery retailers didn't bother me too much because Grocery retailers as a whole is not a category that I really focus a lot of my business on. But that being said, a lot of the beauty brands I work with, especially the hair care brands for my hair texture, usually require me to call out the retailers where their products can be found. For example, Maui Moisture can be found at Shoppers Drug Mart, or Twist Hair Care can be found at Walmart. I actually shared those exact content examples with the brand and asked if A, that would count against their exclusivity terms, because I wasn't technically working with the retailer, I was working with the brand, nor was I like going into the stores and filming content there. Or B, if it did violate their terms, did they have a budget for actual payment to cover my exclusivity rates? Or C, if they didn't have a budget or didn't want to pay, would they be willing to wipe beauty as a category out of the exclusivity terms altogether? Because the thing is, this grocery store actually leaned way more towards like groceries than it did beauty products. They did have a little beauty section in the corner of their store, but it did not have diverse options. It like barely had a makeup section and absolutely did not have options for textured hair. So I feel like maintaining beauty in this contract was a bit of a weird hill to die on because it didn't make up a big portion of their business. At this time too, as a creator, though I was starting to wade into the world of lifestyle content, I was still primarily a natural hair creator. My audience loved getting affordable hair care recommendations from me, and pretty much all of them were being sold at competing drugstores and grocery retailers. So at this point, it was becoming less and less about how much I was being compensated and more about the fact that these terms had the potential to jeopardize a core pillar of my content. How was I going to sign something that messed with the bread and butter of my business? So they ended up coming back and saying that the examples I had given would indeed violate their exclusivity terms and that they were not interested in wiping beauty out of the contract. They ended up asking how much exclusivity would cost for a 3-month trial period. And here is where I came with receipts and numbers that I knew in my heart if I presented them and stuck to them, that the brand would probably freak out and say no, and I would have to walk away. So I went back to my books and added up all of the money I had made over the past 3 months from brand partnerships with beauty brands and hair care brands that had required that I call out a competing retailer. It was $8,000. Granted, the previous 3 months had been Q4, a period notorious for being very brand deal heavy, but still, I quoted them $8,000 because that is how much I could have been potentially losing were I to accept their offer. They were candid that that number was a lot higher than they had been anticipating. I forgot to mention there was a PR agency in the middle doing all the back and forth. So they said they were going to try their best to nudge the brand to really consider removing beauty from the exclusivity terms. But alas, they stood firm, and so did I. And honestly, it worked out because over the course of the year, I actually signed about $20,000 worth of work paid in money with brands that I would not have been able to work with had I said yes to the gift cards. Hair and beauty brands that were super aligned with me and my content that would have been off the table because of the grocery store agreement. And it's funny how our careers evolve because while at this point and in this economy, $12,000 in grocery store gift cards still does not seem like a bad idea. I think if that opportunity would have come up today, I don't think I would have entertained it for as long as I had they not come to the table with actual money. My base rate now for those deliverables far exceeds $12,000, and something I hadn't thought of at the time was that if I'm getting gift cards as payment for a job done, that I would have to declare that on my taxes, meaning the brand would absolutely have been coming out on top in this situation, and it just wouldn't have been an equitable arrangement. It really is important to ask the right questions as a creator and to evaluate the big picture of how a brand deal can potentially impact the future of your business. Let me know if you like these brand deal story times. I do have quite a few under my belt. And if you want to learn more about contract terms to look out for and how to negotiate them, watch this next. Thanks for watching, and until next time.